Today I'm going to talk a little bit about our new DLC called The Old Gods, which, as you can probably suspect, is about the pagans in Crusader Kings 2. In the Old Gods DLC, we're going to make all the pagan nations and characters playable. So we're going to give them a lot of love and a lot of attention. First off, we're pulling back the earliest start date to 867. Now, that's quite a huge difference to the 1066 start that you're all used to. It's interesting for a variety of reasons. First off, you have the great heathen army rampaging through England. And that's an interesting parallel to the 1066 start, where you have the Norman invasion and Stamford Bridge and so on. So we're adding another 200 years, and that's of course a huge game changer to everyone. All of the pagan religions are slightly different. The Vikings and their adventures are kind of a major selling point of this DLC, so they're getting a little bit of extra love. But we're also giving the Slavic pagans and the Baltic pagans and the Mongols, the Tengri, and so on, their own little flavor, essentially. So they're going to work a little bit differently. All of these religions will have special content. For example, if you're playing a Finnish pagan, you won't have the kind of great feast decision that we have for Christians. Instead, they're going to have some kind of Christmas celebration, the Ukon Jula. Pardon me for the pronunciation there, all Finns watching. So all the pagan religions are going to be different. Now, pagans are, generally speaking, barbarians, so they can go off raiding and looting, and that's another huge thing with the Old Gods DLC. Most pagans can only loot neighboring provinces, so they raise an army, they go off to a neighboring province and trash it, basically, taking everything in there. The Vikings, or Norse pagans, have a special ability in that they can raid overseas, so they can just embark on their ships and go off to England and loot, and then bring the loot back home. Another ability that the Vikings have is that they can prepare invasions. They give the word that they're planning this huge adventure, and warriors from all over Scandinavia will flock to their banners for a 2-year period. So they have more men than they normally have, basically, for this adventure. Of course, if they fail, it's a huge prestige loss, and it's very bad for them. Pagans have quite a different set of CBs, or casus bellis, compared to Christians and Muslims. They don't have the Holy War CB, but they do have a kind of general conquest CB, which is that they can take basically any neighboring province from anyone. They can also subjugate rulers of their own culture, because basically might makes right. Pagans also don't have to worry much about producing heirs, and they're allowed to take up to 3 concubines in addition to their normal wife. So they work a little bit like the Muslims in the Sword of Islam DLC. Being warlike barbarians, they're also expected to wage war. So they kind of need to go off looting and to declare wars, or their vassals will start getting slightly upset. They also start losing prestige if they've been at peace for too long. Another game changer is that we're adding major rivers to Europe that can be traversed, but only by Norse culture characters. So the Vikings can go off and they can form the Russian state, Rus, and they can go looting and raiding in the Caspian Sea, which is otherwise inaccessible to, well, distant characters and rulers. The pagans can reform their religions. They're actually codifying and consolidating their religion, creating a liturgy and a formal priesthood, etc. And the reason for doing this is that they can actually withstand the pressure from the more modern religions, if you will, Islam and Christianity. So they will gain access to the Holy War casus belli, for example, and they will also be harder to convert than they are pre-Reformation. So in order to do this, they need to hold a certain amount of holy sites. There are predefined holy sites on the map for each religion. So, not so surprising, Christianity has Jerusalem and so on. It doesn't mean much for them, but for the pagans, holding these holy sites means that they can reform their religion, which is a huge deal.